As those of you who have listened to our most recent episode are aware, we have the wonderful and ever-erect Mike Fallock on to discuss his documentary Telephone Dieting. And when I had him on and we were having a discussion, we realized that we've been talking for about 50 minutes before we actually hit record on the episode. So what I've done is I've taken the majority of that, pretty much done next to no editing on it, other than making sure that the audio is fabulous, and then set it in the rest of this episode. So for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing, here is roughly 45 minutes of us just shooting the shit, basically, before we decided to actually hit record on the last episode. Enjoy!
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's gone off? Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Welcome to episode 122 of the Blokebusters podcast. I'm Paul, and today we're going to be talking about Bill and Ted Face the Music, and I have roped in a familiar voice. I'm sure you'll have heard him. You maybe love him, maybe you hate him. We don't know. But he is the wonderful Honor Knight. How you doing, sir?
That's Honor S. Knight, Esquire.
Yes, and Paul Theodore Hawkins.
And together we are total douchebags.
Hey, don't lump me into that.
Well, I mean, there's nowhere to go but up, sir. But yes, grateful to be here and be back.
All right, so yeah, may as well dive sort of straight into the nitty-gritty here. So first things first, if you do want to catch a hold of the Blokebusters anywhere, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Blokebusters. I'm not brilliant at keeping the Instagram up to date, but everything else is all right. You can go to blokebusters.com and check us out there. Podbros is actually closing at the end of this year, but we are still there, if you want to check that out, as well as some of the other shows that were on the network before the website goes down next year. And yeah, we can find us at all of those lovely little places. You can even email us at theblokes@blokebusters.com if you want to give us a long form message about how wrong we've been about all of the things we talked about over the years. Because, I'm sure we've been wrong about something. Maybe. I don't know. But yes, Bill and Ted Face the Music, the third film in the Bill and Ted trilogy that, I'll be honest, I didn't know we needed until recently, and it'll be interesting to talk about this. Directed by Dean Parasot, I'm assuming is how you say his name. I did not look that up.
Close enough.
And for anyone that's like, who? Yes, this would be the guy who actually directed films like Galaxy Quest, which I am a big fan of. He also directed Fun with Dick and Jane, so swing and a miss there. And he directed Red 2. I've seen Red, I have yet to see Red 2, so I cannot comment on that one. But I do think the person that directed Galaxy Quest, probably a good person to pick for a film such as this. A budget of $25 million, and I'll bet you anything Keanu Reeves was only like 100,000 of that, because, he just doesn't need all the money and he'll happily take a pay cut so other people can get paid. And a box office, because shockingly this actually is in theaters right now. It was released on the 28th of August in most places, and a worldwide box office of $1,555,678 US. And that is a little low, but obviously these are strange times. Yet it was released in America, Iceland, New Zealand, and Russia. So when it's worldwide, it's four corners, I guess. All four corners have been hit, but But yeah, so that's that, and it's going to be very, very difficult to get any kind of real numbers on this for a while, I think, because I'm sure most people are going VOD for this one, given the times we live in. But yeah, so how did you see it? Did you see it through VOD, or did you venture on out?
Unfortunately, I had to see the VOD, and it cost me $20. I had to shit out $20 for this. Like, it's just me here. Like, if there's a house full of people, you can justify the $20 because everybody's going to watch it. It's $5 a pop if you have 4 people. But then I wasn't even going to watch this film, and then because it was $20. I'm like, I want to see it, but. And Paul's like, well, we got to talk about it. So, God damn it. So, yeah, it's the first time I've actually shit out this much money for any movie. And honestly, it's not worth $20. We'll talk about it. I mean, there's a lot to say about it. But there's other movies I would have rather spent $20 on. Than this. But in this day and age, no, I'm not going back to a fucking movie theater. You crazy? Like, I don't care. I'm not sitting for 2 hours wearing a mask. I'm not getting COVID over this shit. No, if I can watch something at home, honestly, the $20 is worth having me truck out anywhere to my local shitty ass AMC theater. So yeah, in this day and age, if I never go back to a movie theater again, I'm okay. Like, except for art house cinemas at this point. Like, I've made my peace with not going back to see any mainstream movies again. Like, I'm good as long as you can put it up on VOD and within a reasonable amount of time. I'm happy. And anything we need to flush is already out immediately. So, like, for my show, it's great. I don't have to go anywhere. But for mainstream media, I don't know. I'm assuming, Paul, you watched it the same way.
Yes, I watched it.
You shit out $20 too, but you had more people in your house, so you can get away with that.
I mean, I do have more people in the house. However, my wife.
Nobody wanted to watch.
My wife has not actually seen Bill and Ted 1 and 2.
Oh, so we're out $40 between 2 people. That's oh my god. So somebody, I hope Keanu and Alex Winter appreciate the money we just gave them.
Well, yes, and I'm sure my daughter, when she's 10 years older, will enjoy this film.
Oh yes. Obviously, your kids will be able to watch it at some point. She's a little young right now for it, but so that's that $20 will come back around.
And I do think it will be basically impossible to talk about this film without first touching on our experience with Bill and Ted 1 and 2. So you can probably guess that I watched it a little later after it was released than you might have, given that. When was that?
Yeah, because I'm ridiculously old. Yeah, I actually saw both of them in the theater. So I saw the one in '89. I did see the sequel in '91. So and I just watched them last week, so to refamiliarize. But yes, I did see them when they first came out, way back. For anybody who remembers that.
So what was your thoughts on the first two? I mean, obviously back then and now, there's going to be some things that really didn't age well, and stuff like that. But in general, what your views on the original Bill and Ted film?
The first one still holds up very well. I just watched. Shout Factor had put out a release of it a couple years ago of both the films. So if you guys want them, you can get them on Shout Factor. Nice collector's editions. They have them in steelbooks. Have at it. First one's utterly charming, and it still holds up very well. Actually, that one with a few minor stuff you can't say now, which I think is what I would say on my show, which I don't think the general Gen Pop can't say now. So there's put a little incorrectness in there. Not much, but generally it's a charming movie. It still holds up very well. It's just a cute movie. It's better than it should be.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot better than it should be. But it's got a really good climax. I was definitely entertained for what it was. The second one, a little less so. The second one has a great performance by William Sadler. Which I just, and he's in this film too as Death, for you kids. I prefer his best performance in Die Hard 2 as the villain, which nobody ever gives him credit for. I don't know why, but I thought he was the better villain in the Die Hard series, but we can argue that. But the problem is the second one gets lost a lot in the plot, and it gets some weird shit going on with those stupid aliens. And it kind of meanders until it kind of rolls to the ending. So the second one I was less charmed with, but Bill Sadler kind of saves it. So, and they're still charming. Those two guys are still entertaining. I mean, the funny thing is that they're funnier than they should be.
Yeah, and it is interesting as well to see, because Keanu Reeves, even back then, it's like he's clearly smart enough to play dumb. Like that. Yeah,
yes, he handles it very well. Yes.
Yeah, there really is a fine line when you're playing someone who's supposed to be stupid. Like, you need to know how stupid to be, and
Right.
Yeah, and
Well,
he
not
does it
like
very
Pauly Shore stupid. There's that. There's different level, or Brendan Fraser stupid in some of his roles. So there's that kind of that doesn't work. And here, like I said, I think they both did it very well. I think they're both intelligent actors and human beings, playing stupid very well. So, or just it's just like, I don't know, it's ignorant. I don't know if you even know it's stupid at that point. They're just kind of oblivious to how the world operates around them, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like they're stupid and or naive, and they're able to walk that fine line where it's not like you're not annoyed at them for being that way.
Right, that's the problem. Yeah, they could easily become annoying, and they don't. They never do. All three films, they actually do not. They actually maintain a certain level of charm throughout.
Yeah, and I'll say I think I first saw the Bill and Ted films fairly close to each other, but I would have been about like 15, 16 the first time I saw them, so a while after they'd come out, and I just remember really enjoying them, and just kind of being along for the ride, and that was the best way I found to describe them, and especially the second one. I will say the Nostalgia Critic said it best, where it's like, think of any film that you've watched, and they've kind of done this whole story, and they could do a sequel, or maybe they won't, and then they say, okay, we've got a sequel coming out, and then the sequel is basically nothing like the first one. Like, there's nothing there that's like, oh, this is a definite sequel to that film, and yet it still works. Like, it's Bill and Ted because Bill and Ted are in it, but the plot is completely different. The stuff that happens in it is so off the walls.
Well, there's some issues with that. It gets a little backloaded by the end of the movie, but and you touched on a really good point about that. It's a completely different, not a completely different film, but it doesn't do with time travel. They could easily just double down on the time travel stuff and made more of this first film, but they did go in another direction with this one, and for better or for worse, I think it works overall.
Yeah,
I just thought it gets a little bogged down there in the middle, that second act, but they do rally at the end. But really, it's Bill Sadler. Honest to God, his portrayal of death that really keeps the whole film afloat. Unfortunately, his character arc ends after they come back to Earth in that second film. So there's nothing left for him to do for the back end of the movie. So he's basically just being funny. Like, he has nothing to do with the rest of that movie. But every time he's on camera, he's just doing dumb shit, whether they're shopping at Home Depot, or just like there's all this stuff they started layering in that he just starts doing. Whether it's improv or whether it was part of the script, but there's no reason for him to be there at that point. So I thought that was interesting. They just kept them through the end credits, and then of course it's a good thing they did because he does factor in with this third film. So it was kind of important to keep him, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just really interesting as well because obviously at the end of the second one, spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it at this point.
The whole thing spoilers.
So they realize that even though they're in the Battle of the Band, they're still not good. So they go off into time and come back, and they've been away for, I think it was, 16, 18 months, something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And they learn how to play, and then they have kids who are Little Bill and Little Ted. And so, now, at no point do they specify that it is two boys called Bill and Ted. However, most people probably assumed based on the name.
But I think at the time it was, but for some reason they decided to gender swap that. But they covered it with one line of dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
One line of dialogue covered that up beautifully and switched it from male to female. And I thought that was okay. Because you saw the kids, they're obviously boys in the when they were shooting. You can tell they're little boys.
They were actually played by girls.
What? In the movie? In that second one?
Yeah, they were actually played by two
Get
girls.
Here. Oh, man, I got to stop drinking when I'm watching some of this stuff. Okay, well, I stand correct. But they were supposed to be boys, I guess. And then they obviously gender swapped for, I don't know, whatever reason for the sequel. And then they covered it with one line of dialogue, and I thought that was really brilliant. I thought that was really clever because it's actually important for these two girls we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, and so obviously leading into this one, it really did. I mean, I was going to say it came out of nowhere. Technically, they've been talking about this film for a while.
Oh God, yeah.
It's been like, okay, we've got an idea. I think it was 2000. 2010, around then, it was like, we have the idea for the film. It's kind of laid out, but then it was basically production hell. And, it was always like, okay, we've got a studio. No, we don't. We've got someone in my packet. No, we don't. Someone's included in it. Oh, they had to drop out. So it was basically just like, well, it's probably not going to happen. But every time they were ever anywhere talking about any film they were in, it was, by the way, Bill and Ted. And so it was really a big surprise when they released that video saying that they were already filming it. So yeah, it was something that I did not know that I really wanted until they announced it, and then it's like, okay, that's great. And then obviously COVID hit, and it was like, well, shit. Like, how is this still going to work? And I believe they had finished filming well before, so
Yeah, I think so. I think most of it was done.
and luckily all editing is done by the editor at home on their computer anyway, so no delays there. I think probably the biggest delay was just trying to figure out how to release it, like how they were gonna, they probably tried to wait until theaters were going to open back up again, and then they obviously weren't going to for a while, at least not in any capacity like you would want them to.
Right.
So straight to theaters and VOD for this one. So yeah, what were you expecting before you hit play?
I don't know if I had that many. I assumed it would be along the same lines as the other two. The funny thing about this is, if they had made this in 2010, it wouldn't be the same film. I think the longer they waited, the better the film actually is for it.
Yeah.
So I think 25 years is a good time, 30 years, because these guys are old, and it was smart to address the script at that point in time rather than have them try to play younger, or have this take place closer to the second one. So I think along that lines, I expected a Bill and Ted movie, and that's essentially what you get. There's obviously some variance on it. It's a little richer than maybe the first two, but it's a little, and it's also worse off in some sections. But essentially, it's about online with what I was expecting.
Yeah, I'd say I went into, I'd seen some of the trailers, obviously, and I feel
were terrible.
that
The trailers were awful.
Yeah, and I feel that they did a good enough job at keeping out the last half of the film.
Yeah.
From the trailer, which a lot of films have trouble with now, so I was appreciative of that. Right. That they really did just focus on a couple of the big things with Bill and Ted, but not really anything with the rest of them.
Right.
So it was good to see, especially when you get the first trailer and it's like, okay, I can kind of see it that maybe they gave too much away or something, but I don't know, and then they release a second trailer. And it's another 2 minutes of the film. And it's just like, okay, now you're just giving me enough that I know what's going to happen. Whereas I think the second trailer was maybe an additional 20 seconds on top of what we'd already seen.
Oh, Jesus.
So like it was really not much more. So they didn't give anything away. In fact, I will say right now, I did not know that there was going to be robot / android / cyborg / whatever.
That fucking guy. That was my least favorite part of this thing.
Oh yeah, same here.
It's terrible. It's just not.
I guarantee you, there is a scene on the cutting room floor that explains that he actually is the ex-boyfriend of Kristen Shaw.
Well, the funny thing about his suit, the guy, there's an actor, I forget the actor's name who's playing him, but the suit itself was designed by Steve Wang and his team. Steve Wang directed a film that we flushed called Drive, I think it was, way back in the day. Yeah, director Steve Wang. I'm friends with him on Facebook. So his team divided. The suit looked great, but boy, that actor in it. It was one of the dumbest characters. He started out great too. I guess we can talk in a bit. We can talk about him, but he started out great, but then when it's just annoying character. It's just not funny. It's a stale joke, and he has to hang around for almost the entire back end of the movie. But that's
yeah.
So that was my main issue with him. I thought he was going to be a lot cooler than he turned out to be.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was. I mean, it was probably intentional that this super sophisticated killing robot was actually just this it's really just like, oh, sorry, no, I didn't.
Yeah, but that's not fun. That's not funny anymore. Like that. We've seen that character a million times. Anthony Carrigan played him. We've seen that character a million times. I just didn't think it was.
Oh no, yeah, I didn't say it was funny.
If it was funny, it'd be fine. But it wasn't fun. Like, we get the joke. Like, we get it. And unfortunately, they got to deal with him because he's in a good chunk of that. Once he crosses that line, they have nothing else. There's nowhere else to go with the guy. So he has to just basically hang around, kind of like Death did when they came back. When they came back to life in the second movie, but at least William Sadler was funnier than this fucking guy.
Yeah.
So I don't understand where the joke was with that. But it doesn't work.
No. So obviously we kind of touched on cast a little bit. So Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter as Ted and Bill, respectively, and Kristen Schaal plays Kelly, who is the daughter of Rufus and the Great Leader, and. For anyone that is unaware, Kelly is the name of George Carlin's daughter.
Is it really? Oh no, I did not know that.
Yeah, so
that's a tribute.
Yeah, that was.
That was a nice tribute to Carlin in the film too. You do see him. Yeah, Rufus is there, and a really nice kind of a quick tribute for those who remember.
Yeah, it was, and interesting as well because obviously you see him using repurposed footage from the first film, and they actually got someone else to do his voice. So that
really
isn't
good. A really good job too, by the way.
Yeah,
pretty good dead-on impersonation of him to cover some dialogue. Very clever.
Yeah, really well done. I did not know. Like I thought they had cut together Carlin voice from the previous films and outtakes to get that, but no, yeah, someone else doing it. It was really well done.
Yeah, very well done.
And then Samara Weaving as Theodora or Thea Preston, and I will say I really like Samara Weaving just as an actress. Have you seen Ready or Not?
Yes, I like her as an actress. I don't think she did as good in this as some other stuff I've seen her in. I think they could have got a better, a daughter character for the Alex Winter character. She's a good actress, yes, and I saw her in Ready or Not, and she did a couple other things that I've seen her in, so I do like her. I thought she was a little too smart for some of this stuff. However, the other girl was fucking amazing. She did a great impersonation of Keanu Reeves.
I will pause you really quick as well because their name is Bridget Lundy Payne.
That's her name, okay.
But they identify as non-binary.
Who?
Bridget Lundy Payne. They identify as non-binary.
In real life?
In real life, yep.
So we don't know what the fuck she is. All right,
they.
Well, whatever. All right, they, fine, whatever. She is very good, and she does a great impersonation of Keanu Reeves, and I really liked watching her. Both of them together, I thought, were really refreshing. I thought overall they did a great job in terms with this whole side adventure that they had to do.
Yeah.
I wish maybe more of the film was about them at this point. I thought maybe they could have done a whole movie just with them.
Yeah.
And then just have Bill and actually Keanu and as a cameo. So it's kind of weird. I hate to say that. I know it's sacrilege, right? We have to have these, but these two actors kind of evolved past that shit. But these two are really fresh, and I thought they were really sharp on a lot of this material.
Yeah, and I feel like it was really interesting as well to have it because you didn't really have it with Bill and Ted in the original film, but it's very clear that they are incredibly knowledgeable about some things, including one of them is actually somewhat knowledgeable about physics, nowhere near as knowledgeable as that one artist whose name of Kid Cudi, I think is.
I guess he was just thrown in. Yeah, that guy. They're the smarter versions of Bill and Ted, slightly smarter versions, anyway. And that, like I said, I like. They're really fun. Their whole side adventure is really, I thought, was great. Like Samara, they could have got a kind of a dumber actress for that role. I think Samara's maybe a little too sharp for that material. And after seeing her in Ready or Not, a couple of these other films, I'm like, we kind of got. But that other chick or him or whatever the fuck that guy is, he was dead on for Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, really well done. And one of the things that I found really fun as well is obviously a through line of the film is that Bill and Ted think of themselves as Bill and Ted. So
that's both they've been attached to the hip for 30 years. I thought that was a clever premise. There is no separation with these two guys at this point. Their houses are next door. That was a whole thing in of itself, and I thought that was really funny. I wish the first half of the movie is way more interesting than probably the last 2/3 of it. But
Well, and there is one point, as the trailer said, they go to hell at one point, and they see their kids down there, and the kids respond to seeing them as dads. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's a complete foursome. Yeah. And I thought that was really clever. They kept that motif throughout.
Yeah, and I genuinely was surprised that they also kept their wives in it as much as they did. Like, it really did feel like right at the beginning that it was going to be, they're in it at the beginning, they go on the adventure and the wives are left behind. But they did keep coming back in. You just got like little bits here and there, and you could tell that there was a second thing that they were doing, and you'd kind of see them. And I thought they did an okay point of being like, oh, okay, I can see them in the background having their own adventure. And I feel like maybe when the DVD or the Blu-ray comes out, they might have a special feature or an extra thing where you actually get to see their side. Because I feel like that's something they would film.
A couple things I'll say about it. Number one, this is the third set of princesses we've gotten. The first movie had one set. The second movie didn't even hire the first two back, and this one didn't hire any of them back. So these are completely different actors. The funny thing was, you mentioned the separate adventure, Paul. When the old versions of them showed up, and you only see them from a distance, wouldn't that have been great if that was the AbFab team? Wouldn't that be great if that was, because that's what it looked like. I'm like, if they got Saunders and the other chick to do that as the old versions of them, that would have been fucking amazing. I don't know why they didn't make that happen. I would have died. Like, literally, I would have died at that. And in the distance, it kind of looks like them, so I was waiting to see if that was going to be the cameo, because that's a one way they could have went with that. But but that thing is you never know what they did or where they were, what their adventure was. But you're right, as a maybe a Blu-ray extra, that might be funny to have a short film with so we know what happened, like the Bridge the Gap.
Yeah, and it really does feel like something that they would film, and obviously, if they'd have shoved it in this film, it would have just been too much.
Yeah, it's already it was already too much. The film's a little overloaded with a lot of busyness, but they could have got rid of the robot guy and had more of the chicks, right? Fuck the robot guy.
Yeah, and I did think, like, when you first saw the robot, and it did seem like they were going to go, okay, like, are they going to be kind of making fun of Terminator here? What are they doing with this?
That could have been funny.
And then when you find out that it is this robot that has been sent to kill them, but I guess it's a robot with
guilt. I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know how familiar you are with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but Marvin, the paranoid android, he's been given a personality by the Sirius Cybernetic Corporation of just being just a paranoid, depressed robot. Yeah, and all of their robots have these personalities, and this guy just got, like,
I guess
nervous.
That's where it was lifted. Yeah, it was. I'm guessing that's where it was lifted. But these guys are not Douglas Adams, and they probably should have just steered away from, or just do a straight villain. I understand why he couldn't have a straight evil robot and just carry that through line, but I didn't. His character is just terrible after a certain point. Well, he's never really great. I mean, the suit looks good. I mean, I thought I got excited. Okay, this is going to add some energy, and then it just goes right out the window after at one point. Yeah,
and the actual mechanics that you see of creating, like, the time travel suit.
Yeah, that was
thing,
cool. Yeah. That was all great. I had no problem with any of that, but. And 20 started being a puss, and I'm like, all right, now we got to stick with this guy for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Now, I do want to ask, we've obviously kind of been jumping around here, which version of Bill and Ted is your favorite of the old Bill and Teds?
What do you mean?
Because obviously we've got our Bill and Ted that start out the film, but then they keep going into the future.
This movie.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to call. I mean, well, they're all obviously the old guys. Probably the oldest version of them, I think, was probably the most interesting. The ones on their deathbed. Everything was cartoonish after that. I mean, the jail guys were kind of funny, but that was a very brief scene. And then the first ones were kind of funny because they kind of fight with themselves. There's one line where one of them says, "You got to stop fighting with yourself, Ted." I thought that was interesting because we all do that. So I thought there was some clever dialogue in that, just like it was in the first movie. where they had to tell themselves where to plant the key and stuff like that. There was clever, time travel play on that. But I had to go with the old guys. I thought it was interesting seeing them at the end of their...
Yeah, I enjoyed the old version of them, and of course...
The makeup was very good, too.
Really
makeup
well
was very
done.
good.
And you also have the thing of, okay, which version of these are we seeing? Are these the old Bill and Ted version of the ones we've seen them visiting, or is this the Bill and Ted that we know? Because it really is. It must be they're traveling through parallel versions of themselves.
Yeah, start getting into that too. Yeah, right.
So yeah, I feel that the old Bill and Ted that they go and visit are actually them, as opposed to the what will happen if they don't write the music Bill and Ted. And I think my favorite ones were the ones where they were in Dave Grohl's house.
Oh, that's right. They did. Yeah, the douchebag version. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, immediately I forgot. I just watched the movie. Dave Grohl had a nice cameo. I was like, showed up for what are you doing at my house? Then it all made sense, right? So kudos to Dave Grohl for being a good sport. Yeah, those versions were great with the fake British accents. It was just nice that that Reeves and Winter got to explore the space with these characters once again. They're both, I should say, 100% in the role. Yeah, and easily Keanu Reeves could have been a dick and demanded more scenes or more screen time, because he is the bigger star, obviously. But they're both even. They're all 50-50 across the board, and they're both 100% in anything they did in the movie, anything. So I really appreciate that after coming back to these roles after almost 30 years.
Yeah,
with the same enthusiasm and energy that they had when they did the first movie. So that's rare, because they could have just sleepwalked through it and cashed the paycheck.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, we've seen enough movies where they've done that, so it's nice to see these guys, just have it look like they really were having a good time making it.
Yeah, and I will say, based on absolutely everything I've ever seen about Keanu Reeves, I would never expect him to be that arsehole.
No, he's really a stand-up guy, and it's good. It's nice to see that proven over and over again, especially here. Like I said, they're both equal, and Alex Winter is actually very good in this. Yeah, he's underrated as an actor, so it was nice to see him. They both inhabit the roles very well. I mean, they basically are these characters in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I was surprised at the number of people they actually got to come back. Like, they actually got Hal Landon Jr. to come back as Ted's father.
Well, that was my favorite person coming back, because that poor fucking guy. First of all, I didn't know the guy was even alive. And the fact they had to get this long-suffering dad to come back for one more movie, he was great. So that was a nice touch. That was the main one that came back, right? And I guess the woman came back, right? The wife, the ex-wife,
yeah,
the wife
Missy.
who married. Yeah, she married, that was a funny joke. But you're only going to get that if you watch the first two movies, because you really have to know the first two movies to understand that joke. And then it's a great joke. It's a great joke. So that was really, like I said, the first act of the film was really where most of the writing and energy went.
Yeah, I mean, they did set it up with their entire speech at the wedding.
But so it's a brilliant. But if you see the movies, it really adds to it, because it's kind of disgusting across the board. Like, it doesn't make any. She married absolutely everybody in that family. It was kind of brilliant how they did that. But.
Yeah, and they even had the headlines during the credits of the second one, where she ends up marrying the villain of the second one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she did. Yeah, she got around. She was funny. So that was nice to have her back. Yeah, there was definitely some nice additions.
Yeah, and I tried looking into some of the other people that were in it. And Holland Taylor as the great leader, I thought was just a nice, established person to play this role, and she was probably the straightest person in the entire film, I think.
Yeah, she came in and did. Yeah, she's always good. She's always solid. So that was a good choice, I thought, for her to come in.
Yeah, and I'll admit I didn't recognize the therapist, but I thought she did a really good job too.
She's a comedian too, and I forget her name, but yeah, she did a good job too.
Gillian Bell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting just to watch this, because I think they did a really good job of. They got back obviously as many people as they could. I believe, didn't they get back Bill's dad as well? Wasn't he in this? I thought so. Maybe I'm I thought like you saw him just in the background at the wedding or something. But
maybe he was there. Yeah.
But yeah. So it was interesting with that, and then the famous people that the daughters went and found. I thought it was a really interesting mix that they went with. Like,
it was That was the case of the script running out, Paul. The first two were great, and I love the character interaction between the first two. I'm not going to spoil it. Like, you might want. We'll save the spoilers on this one. You guys can see who they made. But after that, they went with a real obvious choice, and then two fucked up choices that I never even heard of. So I don't know if they all those characters really gelled the way they all gelled in the first Bill and Ted. I thought it was a better mix of historical figures in the first movie. But they started out great in this one, and I just wish they had just kept going down that same road. Because when they did the first one, I had chills. The first one was fucking amazing. And then the second one was a really good mix for the first one. And then after that, we went with the obvious choice, and then we went with two fucked up things I've never even heard of. But, then again, I'm not a cultured idiot. I'm just your garden variety idiot who flushes movies. So I don't know if you agree with that. I just thought that the historical mix in the first movie was better than this one. But they were on the right track, and I did like the side story for that.
Yeah, and I will say it is interesting, like, thinking on it, because obviously they keep going further back with every single jump.
Yeah, but that becomes a problem, because then we were less familiar with the further back you go.
Yeah, very much so.
I didn't. The last two.
Yeah, I'd say, obviously, and again, without going too far into it, the very last one, no one's going
to know that. That was a dumb choice. They could have, I would have kept it within the 60s and 70s. Like, I would have, even the 80s. I just would have kept it in a really tight loop there, and of core musicians. The way they were going, I thought it was going to be an awesome climax in terms of just who they got. And they did the first two, and then I'm like, we got to go back to this. So it just became a lot less interesting. But like I said, the girls were great in having their interactions to them, especially the first two.
I am interested to hear then, because you obviously talked him up for the second film, but we haven't really talked about him in this one. What is your stance on Death in this film?
Oh, he was great. I thought it was a great cameo. I thought it was just as funny. It was nice to see Bill Sadler come back, and he's 100% too.
Yes.
He has very little to do. It's a glorified cameo, because once they get back to he's done, his character's pretty much done. But it was nice to, if you like the second movie a lot, then you'll like his character. If you've never seen the second movie, you're not going to understand, and you really should go back and watch it, because But I like the tetherball thing. Yeah. I just like they kept playing with the same toys. And he's 100%. Like, God, I saw him at a convention years ago, and he's a wonderful guy, and he was 100% in this. You can tell he's 100%. It's a great role, and it was fun to see him do it.
Yeah, and of course it's interesting. His accent in it is kind of a nod to Death in Seven Samurai.
Well, no, it was Ingmar Bergman's, right? It was the one where he's playing chess, right? It was an Ingmar Bergman film. That's where the character came from. That's what he was making fun of.
Sorry, Seven Seal, yeah. I
Seal,
always
that's
do
right.
that.
Seven Samurai is a completely different movie, sir.
Seven Samurai, he's just in the background in one of the scenes. You don't really...
but Seven Seal, he's actually, that was the Seven. It's Bergman's Seven Seal. That's what he was doing from the get-go. And it was a great riff in the second. That's, like I said, it's the highlight of the second movie where they're playing Twister and Battleship. I mean, that's just fucking brilliant. You just don't... It's just great writing and very clever stuff, and he's 100%. So to see him here come back and just do the hopscotch thing, it just so we get a riff back to that second movie, I thought was utterly charming. He's a great actor. He's just a really good actor.
Yeah, and I did really enjoy the fact that the reason they're not together again is actually just creative differences type thing.
Well, but that directly links to the end of the second movie, because you saw he was showboating in that.
Yeah.
So that was the next step. He became a monster of his own success. So I thought it was a great payoff to have that. And you see all the shit in his office. I thought it was kind of funny. He had an office that overlooked hell. Yeah. I thought that was kind of clever. Like, there were some clever, like, creative touches that they did. I thought that was neat.
Especially since he's been demoted.
Yeah, he got demoted, so he had this shitty office that overlooked the Hades, which I thought was really clever. So it was really nice to have him back. Unfortunately, it's a glorified game. Once they get back up to Earth, that's the end of the movie, essentially. I mean, they come down to this really convoluted, long climax.
Yeah, I was going to say that as much as I enjoyed watching everything, as much as I enjoyed being back with these characters and all of that, like the ending did feel like, oh, we're here.
Yeah, that was, and then it ends. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't do a final scene, and I thought that was weird, where they said, I'm Bill S. Preston Esquire. Like, there should have been one more. It just seems all rushed, and then it just cuts and that's it. And then there's like, there's some end credit stuff here, but nothing, but the film just abruptly ends.
Yeah,
I thought there should have been a little bit more, I think, for a final scene. But considering this is probably the last time you're going to see this, like, I don't think there's going to be another Bill and Ted. I honestly do not.
no.
I think this is it. So I think they could have went off with a better send-off, I think, for these characters and the situation, but I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of anticipated that the end would be Bill and Ted watching their daughters going off on their own adventure. Like,
that would have been nice. Yeah.
like I feel like that it would have been like they're going on their like gap year through history type thing. But yeah, I can understand that maybe they didn't want to do it because then it would be like, oh, you're just setting it up for a sequel, Like,
yeah, but why not? I can look. We like these girls, a girl and a guy, whatever the fuck that other one is. But we like these two characters, so we'd like to see. I can easily watch another movie or even a show with those two. I thought they had really good chemistry. And I thought they did a great impersonation of the other two, and they did to channel Bill and Ted. So why not? I think there could have been a whole history. Yeah, you could have easily done another, Netflix film with them, at the very least. So it's a shame. But maybe we will. Like I said, I don't. But honestly, the way the box office is going, I don't really see this being warranting yet another sequel.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't hold your breath, folks. But it would have been nice. It would have, because I thought those two had a lot of really good chemistry. It would have been nice to see them again.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously the box office at the very least for the next year is just not going to be any measure of how these.
You got to pick and choose. Yeah. We're in a bad state, so.
Yeah, it definitely will be interesting because I think Trolls 2. Talking on this, Trolls 2 made more than Trolls did in the cinema within like 3 weeks of being released on VOD.
Jesus.
Like it just blew it out of the water, and I think that that's probably going to be something that I will be sad if most cinemas end up either closing or by the end of all of this, because I do enjoy going to cinema and seeing it on a screen that is way bigger than I could ever afford. Right. But yeah, I think that this is maybe a hybrid type thing, or like maybe even like drive-through are going to have a huge comeback, which would be nice. I've never been to one.
They are nice. Yeah, and that made me too. Yeah, it's hard to gauge the landscape. It's a slow roll right now into fall, but there's so many other factors with the COVID, and we don't know where the hell we're going to land by the end of the election. So this is all going to go to hell real quick. We don't know what 2021 is going to look like. Maybe 2022 is where everything gets back on track. So we're going to have to eat shit for another year and a half. And that includes going to, includes movie theaters, just not doing well. But if they do the day and date, if they have it available on VOD for the people who watch at home, and they have it in the theaters for the people that have to go to a theater with a mask on, I think that we might squeak through. I don't know. But the box office is going to suffer. You're right. Films that could have done better are just not going to do as well, and films that were total shit may do better because of this. So it's a hard. Like, I don't understand why you would release Bill and Ted on VOD and theater, which makes sense. But the New Mutants, they're going to force you to go get COVID to see, and that should have just went to VOD because it's a piece of shit film that didn't need to be released in the theater. So I'm calling that now. It's crap. I mean, it's obviously everybody hated it. So why'd you even waste the money to put it in the theater when you can just pop it on VOD for $4.99? For anybody who wants to rent it. What is the worst X-Men film ever? I don't know if you should show it in a theater. I think you should have just dumped it on Netflix or Hulu and been done with it. But so there's some really interesting choices they're making. And what's going to happen with Tenet, we don't know. That's getting fairly good box office, but it's gonna break even. And Wonder Woman's probably gonna get moved. And then there's a Bond film if anybody fucking cares. So this whole end of the year is shot to hell. So it's a shame films like this might get lost in a shuffle. Like Bill and Ted probably will. We're just gonna slip under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of the things. Like, I would never sit here and say that Bill and Ted Face the Music should be up for an Oscar. I mean, maybe sound design or that, but I don't believe that it is a marvelous piece of cinema. However, I will definitely say that it is something that we kind of need right now. It's a pretty much a very good hit of nostalgia. Yeah. It's not destroying the characters that we used to know by having them doing something that doesn't feel right. They've definitely done that well. Everyone involved is clearly having fun. It's just, and that was, as you said before, that is what it felt like with the first two films. Like, everyone involved is obviously very in it, very much having fun, and in this film they're very excited to be back and very much having fun again. So
it's a charming movie. It really is. And if you're a fan of Bill and Ted, then it's going to fit right in with you, and you're going to like all three of them. So there's a reason for it to exist. And I appreciate all the time and effort and that went into it, because, like I said, I wasn't expecting to ever see it. So it's nice that they finally did it and then kicked it out before everybody got way too fucking old, started dying off. So I mean, it's if you like the first two, then this is right in line with that. I don't know where it sits with the first two films, because, like I said, there's some really good stuff in this one, and there's some not good stuff. But all three of them, I guess, I have that. So maybe it's just they're all about equal, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say that this one, to me, feels about on par with the second one. But obviously the first one is up there.
That's the one you got to see. Yeah, if you have to watch one, well, you should go in order anyway. But go back and watch fresh-faced Keanu Reeves pre-John Wick. And it's also nice to see Keanu Reeves not killing anybody.
Yeah.
We watched 3 films where he just obliterates hundreds of people. So it's nice to give him a fucking break and have him do something else, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and the one thing that really shocked me watching this film is they actually made Ted sort of... he's not, vastly overweight or anything, but it's clear he's like... he's heavier than he was and all of that. But if you ever actually see Keanu Reeves now, he still pretty much looks like John Wick. So it's like, what kind of slight fat suit did they have on him for this film?
Oh, they did for that one scene. They put him in that fat suit. Yeah, you can tell. He had that gut. That was really funny, actually. I like the fat suit. Then they had, then they had muscle suits later, but that fat suit that the first in that British scene where you said Dave Grohl's house, it was fucking brilliant. It was really, because he's in really good shape. He's in really good shape.
Well, yeah,
and he has to be, because he's got to do John Wick 4. I think he's about to start filming. So
and that's the thing. It's like, he is in fantastic shape. So obviously he's in a fat suit as older Bill and Ted,
right?
But even just as Ted in the film, he still looks a bit heavier than he actually is. So it's like, it's very odd. When I was watching it, I was like, wow, did he put on weight for this role? Like, I don't see that as something that he would generally do, but he definitely looked heavier than John Wick. So it was interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he is. I just was so... it's hard to see him without a beard. That was my biggest... I mean, obviously he couldn't have it for this, but it's pretty jarring, because he looks really good with the beard and the hair. So that's more him, I think, now. So it was interesting to see him to have to shave that off, and he committed to it. So good for him. He could have just done it with the beard, dude. Like that's the key to how nice a guy he is. That he shaved off his beard to do it. Unlike the dickhead from Justice League. Well, he was they wouldn't let him shave his fucking mustache, Henry Cavill, for that nonsense. So at least, he de-John Wicked to do Bill and Ted again. Yeah. So that was good.
I mean, I was kind of expecting, because obviously we see in the trailer, we see him clean shaven and all of that, but I was kind of expecting him to have, like, the Fu Manchu length goatee, because he has that at the end of the second one.
Yeah, you're right. They got rid of all of it.
Yeah. So I was kind of expecting him to have just like a scraggly Fu Manchu beard,
and
for
got away with that,
and for like an opening scene to be, his wife telling him to shave it off. Or
that's
something.
funny. Oh yeah, you could have done that. Right, that would have been clever too. You're right.
Yeah.
But again, they didn't explore that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it would have been her telling him to shave it off, and then him going to Bill and saying, like, she's a that, and Bill going, yeah, you kind of need to, and then him doing it, and then obviously that would have been more of the, we're Bill and Ted, and we love you too.
Exactly. exactly.
But yeah, so and I will say that again, we've said the film does just kind of end. It is a little lackluster, especially given what the ending is. Like,
it was also
odd.
messy. It's a real messy ending. There's a lot of staging and moving around. I think a lot of that could have been cleaned up a little bit. And then it gets really rushed. The ending is really rushed. And then there's no send-off, except for the end credits. I don't know if you watched it at the very end.
I did.
Okay, yeah, but you shouldn't have to wait till and even that's not really a send-off. It's just kind of a funny scene, but we won't spoil it. But there's after the end credits, there's one last scene, which is kind of clever. I just wish there was a better send-off for the characters. Like I said, the film really just ends. Also, I'm going to set up the soundtrack's not that great, by the way. And the first two movies had a really good soundtrack.
Yeah.
At least the first film had a really good soundtrack. This is just a mix of not really a lot of great stuff, and also a lot of music wasn't featured during the movie, which I thought was interesting. There was some crammed in at the credits where everybody's dancing around like idiots, including Weird Al. I don't know if you saw Weird Al Yankovic in one shot. I thought that was bizarre, but
yeah, it was very, very odd. Like just some of the
rock and rollers. I just thought there would be more great now rock and roll, like from Airborne. There's like a ton of like modern music they could have crammed the soundtrack with. And the first two movies had a lot of soundtrack, and this one did not. In terms of like hits, songs, rock and roll songs, not orchestra.
Yeah, and I don't know if because this film definitely felt, because we know Bill and Ted, they were very rock and roll, very into the metal and stuff like that. Whereas this film, it was clear that the music was based more on the daughters and the fact that the daughters really enjoyed all kinds of music and all of that. So maybe they were trying.
I guess
to
what they were
that.
doing, it doesn't always gel. I think. Well, then you got a split movie there. Like, what's your focus? Is it on Bill and Ted in the old school, or is it on these new girls? And I guess they try to do both. And yeah, I can see that. But I just wish it was a more cohesive soundtrack. That was. So that was kind of a shame. But
yeah, would be interesting to see what went into that. Like what was it that they couldn't get some people, or was it that they were trying something new? Like I would be interested to hear.
Dave Grohl doesn't even have a song. Dave Grohl was a cameo. You think they would have they would have got to use one of his tunes? But no, Dave Grohl doesn't even. He's the closest thing to rock and roll in the movie, honestly. And then yeah, in terms of actual real musicians, in terms of like actual people. And that's it. That's all you get. But there's no song by Dave Grohl. So yeah, I think there's a lost opportunity there. I think that they could have crammed it up a little bit with some really good tunes. I think that would have helped. And a good mix, like you're saying, the new and the old. But they didn't even do that. It's mostly orchestral. And then all the stuff they cracked on the end credits, and I forget who does. There's like 3 or 4 songs that are new, I guess, over there while everybody's dancing like an idiot. I'm not sure. I don't really get that credit ending, but I just wish they had just done a better send off for the characters.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see them like actually trying to set it up in a way where they're like, we can move forward with this, but I do feel that this is a good place that if we never saw Bill and Ted again,
we're okay.
I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I think we're okay. Yeah. Also, the last scene in the movie could have been a setup for another sequel with the 2 girls. Like, why don't you have the 2 girls and then the time thing comes down and then something happens and then you end there?
Yeah.
Like, I think you could have pushed forward with the girls. I think that may be the way to go. But like I said, if we never see any more Bill and Ted, I think nobody's losing sleep. It was nice for them to come back. We like the nostalgia, but maybe you don't want to overstay your welcome. Because it's not Doctor Who. Let's be you can't really stretch it out that And they tried to do a TV series and it failed horribly. So this is I don't expect them to continue on.
Yeah, I will say I was sad that they didn't continue with the cartoon. I can understand why they didn't, but I did enjoy watching it.
Yeah, there was a whole thing about that. Yeah, there was a cartoon about that, which had the original actors and then had a switch to other actors. There's a great history about that. But yeah, the cartoon didn't make it, as well as the live show.
Yeah, I will say I remember exactly one scene from the cartoon. I remember really enjoying it when I was watching it, but there is one scene that had always just stuck with me, and I have no idea why, but it is an episode where they're trying to find Mark Twain. And of course they go and visit Mark Twain, but Mark Twain isn't Mark Twain's actual name, it was his pen name. So they keep going to talk to the guy who is Mark Twain, but that's not his name, so they don't think they found him. And he keeps just singing Mark Twain in a weird voice. And so like I just remember that joke being a through line of that episode. And I remember finding it funny every time. So
Right.
yeah, I can understand why they wouldn't want to move forward. However, if they do reboot the thing, I would love for them to get the guy that did George Carlin's voice in this film to come back, because I think they could probably get away with that. Maybe it's him as a narrator or something.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, he was a great. Yeah, whoever did that voice did a really marvelous job emulating Mr. Carlin. So it was nice. It was a great tribute. It was nice to see him represented. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Like we kind of mentioned it, but I think this film. This film is kind of an example of how to do it right, because everyone involved clearly loved the originals and wanted to preserve that, and they were able to build on it in just the right way. So, yeah, if you enjoyed the original two Bill and Ted, you will probably quite enjoy this film, even if the ending is a bit rushed. Like it's still
enjoyable. Yeah, the screenwriters did a good job. Obviously, they did all three films. But this, keep in mind, the guy who directed this did do the Galaxy Quest. This is not Galaxy Quest.
No.
That's the much better, of his repertoire. That's probably his best film. So don't expect Galaxy Quest, because it's not that. It's not even that kind of feeling. It is warm-hearted and it's got a good message, I think, but it's definitely not Galaxy Quest. So.
No, yeah, and there are knowing it now and thinking back, there are bits in it that kind of feel like, oh, okay, like it does have that look, that sheen to it.
Yeah, there's a little bit there, but it's not not on the same level at all. But there's some. But if you like, if you like the first two, you'll probably be on board for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I hardly recommend people do watch it. Like I would say. If you're not a diehard fan, you're not someone that probably already paid the money to watch it because you really enjoyed it, or you just want to support the actors and the people at this point in time. I'm sure if you give it a month or so, there'll probably be cheaper rentals or something.
Oh yeah,
that.
Wait a couple. Yeah, wait till it comes down to $6 if you have to rent it. You don't unless you have a whole family of diehard Bill and Ted fans. Don't shit out $20. I don't think it's definitely not worth it. It's terrible to say. Yeah, $6 is fine, or free, or $3 or whatever. It'll show up on Amazon Prime. They will reduce the price in a month or so, or 2 months or so. The price does come down. That's how I watched The Hunt. I think that way. I waited until it got down to $3.
All right.
And and I wish I had done that, but Paul needed to talk about it, so. $20 in the hole in this fucker.
I felt it was worth discussing.
Yes, it is. Like I said, if you're Bill and Ted fans, then if you really want to shit $20, go for it. But otherwise, just pop the brakes, watch the first two again. That's what I did. Get yourself refamiliarized, and then it'll get knocked down to $6. So don't worry. Don't pay that. Don't pay $30 for Mulan, which is out now. Because in December that'll be free on Disney Plus, so don't be an idiot. Your kids can wait for Mulan. It's not that great. Don't worry about it. It's like I say, just pump the brakes on some of these movies, guys. You don't have to shit out $20 every night.
Yeah, unless you're in the business of doing a podcast talking about newly released movies, in which case.
That case, unfortunately, you're screwed. But yes, for the normal people, yes, you can wait. So.
I don't think I have too much more that I would say about this. So unless you have something waiting in the wings.
Nope, we got it covered, man. We went through in and out the other side of it.
So why don't you tell people where they can find you at this point in time?
Signalsoffury.com, at signals_of_fury at Twitter. You'll find it on Twitter. But no, signalsoffury.com. That's our home base on the internet, our home restroom on the net. All our episodes are there. You can check them out. They're still viable. Of course, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We are everywhere you listen to podcasts. You can check us out. Soiled Restroom Cinema is the name if you're looking for us on the podcast. Signalsoffury.com is the website.
All right. And as I said at the beginning, just search Blockbusters, and after you've unclicked, did you mean Blockbusters? No, I meant Blockbusters. Once you've done that, you can find us. Yes, do reach out if you have anything that you wanted to say about our discussions, or anything that you want us to look at in the future. Definitely willing to take any and all suggestions. Whether or not I'll end up watching them is another story, because, I've had some people ask for something, a couple of musicals before. It's like, no. But yeah, definitely willing to take any suggestions or even just have a conversation on Twitter or Facebook or anything. I do enjoy hearing from everyone. So hopefully you guys are all keeping well at this point in time. So make sure you stay as safe as you possibly can, and wait out for some more stuff coming out. I've got some interesting ideas I think you'll enjoy. So with all of that being said, I've been Paul.
I've been Honor.
And we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.